Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Currency Podcast. I think this is episode 106. I think that's what it is. I'm going to be continuing my career mode, just continuing from where I left off. Just as an update in the career, I'm in the fifth event of six on the Corn Ferry Tour, and I'm third in the points standings. I think I got to be in the top 25 or top 50 or something like that in order to graduate to the PGA Tour. That's one of my goals. I'm very goal oriented, but I'm just continuing from where I left off last time, which is the first round of the fifth event, but I'm on the back nine. I'm locked in here. I think I'm just going to turn this down because that's actually annoying. For me to listen to the in-game volume is a little annoying to me when I'm locked in and spitting words for unknown purposes, for purposes unbeknownst to the rest of the world. I mean, they're my own purposes. To serve my purposes, I'm spitting a series of words, the sequence of which you might find valuable. I'm attempting to order words in sequences that people find valuable, so that, I mean, it's a pretty, I'm doing a lot of work to not, to have this thing that I'm doing that isn't really directly profitable. It's a lot of work for not a lot of profit. But I have made over $3 so far, so joke's on the rest of you. You thought I wouldn't make money off of this, then I guess you were wrong. I got about $3 that'll tell you otherwise. Count 3 of them. I can put that into cash and show it to you on camera too. 3 of my best friends. 3 single dollar bills that I made off of this podcast. They'll tell you what's up. In case you didn't know what's up, you can consult the dollars that I made off of this podcast. And I do want to reveal the dollar amount that I've made and just put that on the screen for all of my podcast episodes at all times. It's just that I've made an embarrassingly low amount of money to this point. And so it would be artistic to just put the money dollar amount, but I don't want to be embarrassed. So I haven't yet, but maybe I will in the future. It's not, the amount of money isn't embarrassing. It's just I feel like the rate at which I'll make it won't be very high. Oh, and that one's going over the back of the green. No, it's not. Just on the fringe. On a green that if you went 1 yard past the back of it, you would have been rolling down. It would have rolled down the hill like it was you just jumped off the face of one of the Rocky Mountains, because there's a major drop off beyond the back of this green, is what I'm telling you. So sequences of different sequences of words than the sequences of words that you'll find on other podcasts. So one of the reasons why you want to tune in to what I'm saying, I guess. But enough about me. Let me divert your attention to my career mode player, Barge Mistletoe, who's my co-host here. Sadly, my co-host is a fictional, computer-generated human man who golfs semi-professionally. He's an amateur. He's not even a PGA Tour golfer. If you think you didn't have to listen to Barge Mistletoe before, just remember that he's not even on the PGA Tour, for being a guy that's sole existence is golfing professionally. Barge Mistletoe actually doesn't even go home he doesn't do anything outside of this. The only place he ever appears or exists is as a golfer, but I wonder what in life. Is this thing on? What, am I alone in here? Wait, is this thing on? I mean, it's like I'm not getting any feedback from the audience right now for some reason. Oh, wait, that's because they hear it later after I recorded it. Unless you're watching on the Twitch stream, which in that case, I could actually receive feedback from you, but I think I turned the chat off. But I think I still only have one follower on Twitch, so if one of the people who listens to this is that one follower, I can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart, but it's really not that big a deal. Like, I'm not going to get all sweaty about it. Thanks for following me, but it's like I can only go so far in thanking you because it's really just ironic that you're thanking the audience that there's only one person following you. It's another thing that can just get into the territory of looking embarrassing. But like I was saying at the end of the last episode, I was talking about Aubrey Plaza and how she wrote this book called The Legend of the Christmas Witch. And that is, it's a book that she's writing to contrast the myth of Santa Claus, where she is positioning herself to be a Christmas witch, essentially. Not that the book is about her. I don't think it's the book. She didn't write it to be like, I, Aubrey Plaza, am the Christmas witch, but in real life, she dresses up as a witch and goes out in public, which I was saying is real life witchcraft, because she's working on her craft pretty much more than... There's nobody else in the world that's, like, appearing as a witch in real life, but, like, it's part of becoming that or gaining authority in that is actually, like, appearing as that in public so people can see you. That is, like, working on your craft. If that's what she wants to be in, that's what she wants to gain authority in, is the area of being a witch. She's working on her craft by appearing as that, and being that, gaining experience as that. It's, that's like, what else could you call witchcraft besides somebody dressing up as one, actually? But it's like, she's not taking it seriously when she goes on, she went on a couple shows, more than just Ellen. I think there's at least one other one I saw where she's like dressed up as a witch, but she goes on there and she just kind of like jokes about it. She's not acting like this is a serious thing, but it is like witchcraft in real life by all standards, because nobody else is actually doing that. But she made a movie, or like was one of the main producers in a movie that came out that she was in called The Little Hours. I don't know if you've seen that. But that's a really good movie. It's really funny. I watched it recently. I hadn't seen it before. And the cast, if I knew that that cast was in it, I would have seen it right when it came out. I just hadn't heard about this movie. It's called The Little Hours. It has Aubrey Plaza and Nick Offerman and Allison Brie, John C. Reilly, and Molly Shannon from SNL, who's an underrated actress. Flies under the radar for most people. I pay attention to what she does. Molly Shannon, she's on SNL in the 90s. She's a good character actor, and character actor is an overused term. People just use it flippantly, kind of just to describe anybody who's acting. But I would say Molly Shannon is a good character actor because she really like overcommits to who she's playing. Like overdoes it, like the gestures are like dramatic, like as if it appeared on Broadway or something. That's what I think it means to be a character actor, is somebody who's being overly dramatic as if they were performing it on Broadway. But Molly Shannon is that way because she has her background in, like somebody with a background in improv or sketch comedy. It's probably going to be prone to be more dramatic since they have to have more over dramatic facial expressions and sounds that they use to sell the characters they're portraying. They have to be more dramatic to sell it to the entire audience. Like if you have an experience in performing live, you might be more dramatic, or you're getting into more like the way that you're acting is more Broadway than just shit that's filmed on a set, not in front of an audience. But Willem Dafoe is another one that's a good example of a character actor. For when people say, a character actor or whatever. It's almost like that doesn't mean anything. How much people use it. Everybody's a good character actor. But Willem Dafoe is actually a character actor because the roles that he plays them really dramatically, gets really into it. Like the character that he'll portray is really identifiable rather than ambiguous and confusing. Like he's not going to hide behind irony or anything. That's what a character actor does, is somebody who really tells you who the character is, sells out for the character, rather than that they're hiding behind mystery or intrigue or undefinability. But what I'm talking about is more of a New York style, and Willem Dafoe, most of his entertainment background, it comes from New York. He's a New York City guy. My headset turns off. But I'll probably replace the audio with my microphone like I did last time, so you won't miss when my headset is trying to reassign itself because it turns itself off. Just letting you know. But the point I was making about Santa Claus too was one of generosity. Like, the world could be more generous, but maybe we distance ourselves from our own ability to be generous person to person a little bit with something like the myth of Santa Claus, where we're using this guy as our excuse to be generous and give gifts to people. Like, for some reason, we need a god of generosity in some instances. Like with Santa Claus gives gifts to everybody. Like, you know how he is. I just have to stop and think, what am I even saying? Hey, by the way, Santa Claus gives gifts to everyone. Don't forget about that. In case you were thinking about Santa Claus, like, how would it be the case if you knew who Santa Claus was, but also didn't know that he's a gift giver kind of person? I guess that's his love language. No, actually, you'd be surprised. His love language is sex, which the one that is just physical love, they should just say that's sex. Santa Claus' love language is sex. Unfortunately for the rest of us, that's the case. And looks like I'm gonna have trouble getting out of here. This round I'm not really paying attention. I'm just kind of whacking off, that's all. Just in general. This round I'm just whacking off, Not that that's ever been the case. Listening to this podcast, you probably listen to it and you're like, yeah, I don't know, like, you listen to this podcast maybe a couple or 2 or 3 weeks in a row when I put them out, and then you're like, I don't need to listen to that guy whack off for an hour again. It's too many times. Oh, there's a good shot. Oh, and then I get some spin on a shot that, if it didn't spin and kept going, along with the natural contours of the green, would have rolled pretty close to the hole. But, I mean, I'm not complaining, but it would have been a pretty good shot. But I don't really have a problem with it. A missed opportunity, but it's not something I'm going to regret into the future or anything like that. I'm not going to remember it later on. Would have been nice, but it's like, it doesn't matter for real. Would have been cool to have that, but oh, that one's got to get in. You've got to give me that one, God. God, come on. God, I set myself up for a nice par opportunity. God is always denying me prizes in life. It should really be, people should blame God more for their actions, because you just sound like a bozo if you're like, why does God hate me so much? Oh, my life. Like, anytime somebody's saying I hate my life, then that person is the ass. That person is the idiot. Anybody who ever says that, because it's your life, because you chose it. And I think about my life, like commenting on the real life circumstances of your life is more something a character actor would do. And I guess now at this moment that I'm mentioning character actor, I'm saying it maybe more in the context of when people talk about being the lead character in life. Like, that's a popular thing to talk about now, is the idea that certain people are more, they have like lead role energy, lead character energy, lead actor, which is true. That's true to life. That's real life. Because it's not, because truth is stranger than fiction, and movies can only go so far in portraying what is astounding and mysterious about the world. But I don't think they go far enough, because I think that people themselves are more interesting than what a movie can say a person is interesting for. Like, a movie can only say so much about why people are interesting. I think that actual people in the world are more interesting than anything a movie can say. And truth is, maybe it's not stranger than fiction, but it's better. It's better than fiction. It's kind of like whatever that Taylor Swift song is on one of her new albums, where she says that same thing in a line in one of her songs, maybe on the album Folklore, and she says, um, so the things that happen in real life are going to be weirder than anything that a movie can capture, or something to that effect, is what she says. And that is true, I think. But I say that in relationship to, I'm saying that it's true, that idea that there are certain people that are more a lead role, or like the way that we go about life, because everything is kind of an act. But like, you get the city of Austin, Texas, and I visited there, and what is striking to me about Austin is that a lot of is how many of the bars have live performances. It's kind of like when you go to Vegas, and every one of their grand hotels, all of their major hotels in and around, like on the strip and around the strip in Vegas, each one of them has a big show that it's like, this is our headliner show at this hotel. Each hotel has its own show in Vegas, and they're all different. Like, one of them's a magician, one of them's a singer, like Celine Dion, one of them's Cirque du Soleil, but each hotel has their own show. In Austin, it's kind of like that, but it's just regular bars in the popular areas of town. They all have a show at night, or at least on the weekends, but it's either a comedy show, or it can be something more unique from that. From what I gathered, it looked like there were people doing different things. I passed by one storefront of a bar where I looked in, and there's this guy like painting a picture as part of his act in front of this giant audience. But that bar was weird, and they must have made it to look like that you could pass by and then see that there's a giant audience facing the stage. Because like, I passed by this bar outside in Austin and looked in the window at night, and there's a show going on. But from my view, I'm looking at the back of the performer, and all of the audience is facing me. Like, the audience is facing outward towards the street. And they must have set it up this way because they thought that's a cool idea for the passersby to just see that the audience is facing them. Because I basically can't remember any example in life where I've seen that exact thing. But all of the bars have their own show, whether it be comedy or singing or something, and there's like tons of open mics. But basically, you can get minor paid gigs for doing an acoustic set, like singing, doing music, or doing stand-up You can get like minor paid gigs. It would appear there's so many shows because allegedly it's the live music capital of the world, but it's kind of like the live capital of the world, uh, from what I gathered. Um, but what's interesting about it is just that the divide between performer and audience is more dissolved there than in any other place that I've seen. It's like they set it up that if you're a performer, you're kind of just like anybody else. They don't make it like there's this divide between the people who think they're talented and perform and the audience. It's like there's so many opportunities to perform that any regular audience member or regular person on the street is kind of like relatively more thrust into the world of performing. I mean, even if they don't do any performances, if you're in Austin and you're just an audience member for all of it, you're just a consumer. Um, Even if that's the case, you have a lot more opportunities to involve yourself in performances, even if you're just a consumer of performances. But it's just kind of like, I would say that it is the devil's playground, really. Austin, Texas, modern day in 2022 is the devil's playground because of this very fact, because of what I said. The opportunity for performances, because the divide between performer and audience isn't there. Um, it's a place that it's an environment conducive for selling your soul to the devil, basically, because one of the main things that inhibits performative activity is just stigma from audiences, closed mindedness from audiences, expectations put on performers, people who want to perform, that you should be making good on this premise while you're performing, or else you're screwed and we're going to write you out of existence. Like, not enough acceptance and open-mindedness is granted towards people who are willing to perform or trying to entertain. I think that people just in general are very quick to criticize the person attempting to be an entertainer. I do believe that Jesus Christ influences this, as I often do. Like, I will often blame it on Jesus, or for some reason, you probably wonder why I find a way to pin so many different things on Jesus. Um, but I think at some level, I just happen to think that Jesus Christ influences everything, like beyond what people are thinking about, whether you're a Christian or not a Christian. I think that people in the world that don't identify with Christianity don't realize the influence that Jesus Christ has. I think that Jesus Christ even influences in this area, between the relationship of performer and audience, because Jesus Christ is kind of like the consummate entertainer, I would say. I I would say that there is no character that we have more reverence for in the entire history of humanity. There's no individual that we revere to be good at leading us or entertaining us more than Jesus Christ. I feel like it is not wrong to refer to Jesus as an entertainer, because he entertains the whole world more than any other individual ever has in all of history. Um, this is not, I'm not trying to say that I like that. I think that that's a bad thing for the rest of us, because we're constantly overshadowed by this guy, and I think that he does something like set the standards for entertainment to the point that anybody trying to perform, and you'll probably just I mean, this is a tough sell because this is a really original idea. I think I haven't heard anybody else say this, that Jesus influences performances, but it's a similar thing to like how Robin Williams influences performances for comedians, because if anybody um, if anybody tries to be really zany and really manic in the way that they perform, like even if they go on Jimmy Fallon or something and they're a comedian, they can't run all over the stage without drawing comparisons to Robin Williams. But it's like Robin Williams, the example of that, is so far above everybody that it's like we already know that if you're doing something that looks a little like Robin Williams, you're not as good as that because you're already being overshadowed by him, because we already know that he does that and he's better than you because he's unmatchable or whatever, not comparable. He's an incomparable reference, and I like if somebody does good enough in the area of entertainment, you can reach that status. Um, I'm saying that Jesus is a little bit like that, where it's like Robin Williams has that effect on everybody. Um, that would do something similar to that. But what I'm talking about is that I believe in the future the divide between audience and performer will be more dissolved for everybody in the world, but we live in a world currently where everybody thinks that um, it's this really big deal to be talented, uh, because it's kind of like if you get up and do stand up and then you do that for the whole room of people, you continue to do that in life, you're continuing to argue that you're like, I am an entertainer, I deserve to entertain, I am one of the people that does that. And I'm just saying that in general, Christian influence doesn't like people competing with them individually, like where Jesus Christ is an individual. Um, and so it's kind of threatening to the environment just in general to say that you are worthy of entertaining people. Um, yeah, I don't know that this is kind of difficult to explain the reasoning completely for what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is that you sell your soul to the devil. The only way you do this, it's kind of like you can worship Jesus as an individual, or you can try to make it on your own outside of something like religion or Christianity, like on your own moral code, your own moral compass. And if you try to do this, you have to sell your soul to the devil, sell your soul to the side opposite of Christianity. You basically do, um, or in other words, work really hard in and of your own strength. Work really hard at something while saying that you're God or something, rather than that there's another God that gets to decide what the rules are. Like if you go into a world where if you're like Britney Spears or Lady Gaga, you have to work so hard at music that exists in the secular world and really doesn't have anything to do with Christianity. But the only way that you'll be successful is if you truly sell your soul to the devil, like truly sell your soul to something that exists outside of the Christian world. And it's unique to be able to do that. It's more difficult to do that. It's more challenging because you don't have like a collective to rely on at the end of the day. Like Christianity, your narrative is always fine. And you don't have to make it happen on your own because Jesus as an individual has already taken the blame away for you, so that you don't, there's nothing more you have to do besides just believe in him. And if you don't believe in him, if that isn't the case for you, then you have to make it on your own as your own individual. And at that point, you're a competitor to Jesus. And the only way that you'll be a successful competitor is if you like sell your soul to the devil, basically. And I say that, or in other words, gain a lot of authority as just like a singer, something secular, something evil. um, that the Christian church would say, I would argue that they say is evil. But Austin, Texas is a training ground for this kind of thing. It's an environment conducive for that because they don't they're accepting of all performances or of individuals saying that they can decide things on their own and shit like that. But I'm just talking about how the stage isn't really a big deal. So I don't really know what happens at the point that we totally decide the stage doesn't matter. But I'm saying in reality, the stage doesn't matter. We just haven't figured that out yet because we think that the people that get up there there's something automatically special about them, but they are saying that there is something special about them. But like, this is how we divide out the people that think they should be an entertainer. We're like, okay, get up on the stage, idiot. You kind of look like a clown anytime you're on a stage, I would argue. That's kind of like we put them up on a pedestal, and so uh, I don't know. I don't know what that says. That Austin kind of makes it so that the stage just melds into the rest of it more so because there's so much going up on stage happening that it becomes commonplace that it's almost like going on a stage means nothing. In Austin, but not in other places, not everywhere. A lot other places that don't offer opportunity to go on a stage. The stage itself is more on a pedestal. But I'm just talking about how, um, let's say it's a really small town in the Midwest where there aren't any opportunities to perform in the entire city. They would look at a stage and say that the stage is that's a really big deal. Like, that's a different thing. I mean, that's what the stage is for when it's an elevated platform, is to say that the person on this is different from the rest of us, or they're like elite. And what I'm saying is that I think a lot of us perceiving the stage to be elite comes from something like perceiving, like, we have to be distant from saying that we are the god of entertainment as long as we've decided that the individual who's best at entertaining us is Jesus. And I'm saying that we decide that as a world because it's the world that celebrates a new year after Christ every single year. So I apologize to, again, I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to bring to light ways that Jesus influences the world that people aren't often thinking about. Um, but you have to sell your soul to the devil to say, I'm going to make it outside of the church or something. To say, like, um, I don't need Christianity. Because Christianity offers you the chance to not have to go into all of that, like, create your own legacy kind of shit. Christianity's like, your legacy's already good if you just say that you like Jesus, because does, Jesus already does having a legacy. He already did that. There's no more have a legacy than Jesus. So just believe in him, and legacy for you too. Just believe that he has the best legacy and don't even worry about the world of saying you have a competitive one. And sure, yeah, I'm biased because I have a Christian background that I would end up, like, I have a Christian background and coincidentally I keep tying everything back to Christ or whatever. But it is true that we don't name all of time after Buddha as a world. And generally the world would say that Jesus is more popular than Muhammad and Gandhi. We would be like, well, Jesus is more famous than Gandhi. obviously, we would all agree. Like, and if you're saying Gandhi is more famous than Jesus, you're just a homer. You'd have to be really Muslim. You'd have to be really biased towards Islam. Was Gandhi Islam? I think he was. Or was he just a good guy? There's no such thing. I mean, anybody who ends up as like, this was the greatest guy in history, it's usually the people that just propagandize themselves the best, and it wasn't really the case that they were so great. Like people who are remembered well in history, a lot of times they are just really good at marketing themselves, and so, I mean, but not all of the time. Um, but yes, I'm going on about that. The way that Austin is just, it's just this more open environment. It's kind of like eating mushrooms or something, where boundaries between things that you think have to be there, they sort of dissolve. Like Austin, Texas as a city is a more boundaryless place where things could just happen. And I would say that you Austin, Texas is a city you would have to describe as being more satanic than others because of the assumption that individual people can like get up and perform. But I'm saying that I don't know what happens at the point that the stage is totally melded into the audience. Um, but I'm saying that this can happen on a worldwide scale, but we currently live in a time where we distance ourselves from that, and we say that the people who are actors, they should live in this almost alternate reality called Hollywood, where they make all of that happen and they become the best at acting, because regular people across the world are like, we're not good at acting, even though they do it every single day. And every time you go out and discuss things with people, it's performative a little bit, um, because people can't, what do you say, wire transfer. They can't directly just say all of the thoughts that they're already thinking. There's too many things in the way. There's too many like, you have to choose the right words. You can't just say directly all of the thinking, because that would just sound like garbled nothing. It wouldn't be cohesive. Just to make a cohesive sentence, you have to perform or pretend like this is the way a sentence lines up, because the way that people think isn't formatted to the way the English language needs to sound already. Like the way that people think is already in a different language than the English language, and just the fact that you have to format it for English or whatever language is performative. You have to perform to the standards of a language just automatically. Besides that, you have to perform to the standards of a specific environment that you're in, public place, or a specific group of people. Oh wow, I just went into the water twice for this is bullshit. This is bullshit. Looks like I made the exact same mistake twice in a row, and that's my fault. But I was 4 under before this hole started. I'm about to really eat shit down the stretch here. That one might go in the water too. Why am I hitting 3 almost perfect drives and they just go in the water? Probably because I'm not paying that much attention. Um, Shit, what was I just saying? Performing and formatting your words for the English language. Everything is already a performance, but yet we carry on in this way where we're like, oh wow, the actors, and we give them major awards, but we see just in the last decade that how that dissolves, and and that's what I'm talking about, is the trend, the direction we're headed is this dissolving of things like the Oscars, where the Oscars are less revered now than they were 10 years ago, post Ricky Gervais totally roasting the Golden Globes. as a pointless activity. Post that world, award shows have a lot less respect because they should, because it's like everybody in the world is acting just when they're talking, but currently as it stands, we see it as that you have to be something really special or up on a stage to be an actor. But we see it's like dissolving where we don't revere actors as much. And it's also like post the Will Smith slap, we now live in a world where comedians have more power than actors. Unfortunately for actors or anybody who would prefer an actor to a comedian, we live in a comedian's world now because now we finally see the truth that it's more valuable to be a comedian than to be an actor, because an actor, I mean, a lot of them are just empty vessels, but to be an actor, you potentially are just an empty vessel with not a lot of original thoughts. But to be a comedian, you have to write your own material and be a more intellectual person. Like you have to be more responsible and intellectual and be able to speak like more alert. So there has to be more going on to be a successful comedian than to be a successful actor. There's a lot of actors that they just show up and they need all the shit to be written for them, and it's like that's a skill all its own, but comedian is a more valuable skill, and we're transitioning into the world where we see the truth of that. It was already true, it's just that we need time for perception to change. And so, like in the last century, it's been an actor's universe. The next century might be a comedian's universe, but that's not to say that comedians is the be all end all of entertainment. There is some other skill set that's more transcendent than comedy that I'm not thinking of, that I don't know. I don't know what that is. Um, my headset turned off, waiting for it to turn back on. I don't know what is the skill set in a person that's better than comedy, but at some point that will transcend comedy, and then comedy will have no answer, and then that as a genre will deteriorate. Um, but it's like that's kind of their last stand, or one of them that actors have, is like this Will Smith slap and then giving him a standing ovation when he receives an award later as propaganda for this is a good thing, we should be attacking the comedians because they're evil. But as it turns out, it's only people who are already in the actors camp that feel this way, because the rest of the world is like, fuck you, we don't condone violence. Actors, you suck. After the fact, but the actors is like, I mean, not that it was planned necessarily. It might not have been planned, but maybe Will Smith is doing that for like, this is for the acting community, for against all of the comedians who are siphoning off their power, where comedy is emerging as the predominant form of entertainment in the world because of podcasting and shit like that. They're siphoning off power and influence from actors. Actors don't take kindly to that. Will Smith is like, I'll help you out, but like take a moment to consider the kind of responsibility that's on Will Smith's shoulders. Um, I would say being black, being a lead actor, there's nobody like him. Nobody does what he does as a lead actor. Um, and black. Nobody else is as much the leading guy as Will Smith is. And that's kind of like, that comes through in the roles that he takes in the movies that he has. He has a lot of roles where the weight of the world is on his shoulders. And like in I Am Legend and I, Robot and lots of his movies is like, uh, this unnatural amount of weight is on Will Smith's shoulders. I think it's that way in Hancock as well. Um, and that has some to do with the way that it plays out in real life, that he has a lot of responsibility being kind of the standout leading black male actor. And like, I think that people would be quick to dismiss that that is true, and that there is a lot of weight on his shoulders for being that, for the whole nation having to be a guy. Um, but he does it so well, and that's why we like him, and that's why he's in that position. Not that many people could do that. Um, And so, like, Will Smith is willing to take responsibility and take the blame, or do something crazy. Like maybe he slaps Chris Rock, and the rest of the world is like, yeah, let's start slapping comedians just while they're on stage. Like that's how we'll get back at them. Or it's like that the stage and the audience, like if the audience just sees it as that it's approachable to the, oh, we can just hit the comedian if we don't like them, then we'll start hitting them. I think that that's what the acting world had in mind, whether or not the event of the slap was planned. But it didn't work out because, sorry, in reality comedians are more skilled, and so they will win out in time because the world will eventually have to agree that a more valuable skill is being a comedian. Like, but having a more valuable skill is something that's going to last longer anyway. Being an actor is just you're waiting for the point at which everybody realizes that it's not the greatest thing ever to be an actor or whatever. Because at some point we're like, well, why do we perceive so much power into this talent of acting? And that we put people up on a stage or on a pedestal for being able to act, that world is going away because, I mean, I mention that shit all the time. It's just like the acting world is dissolving or whatever, Hollywood. But it's just interesting that everybody in the world already does that, and I think it's just we need to realize that we already have all of these things that we think you need to be something really special, or talented. Like I think talent is kind of just with a lot of people, but so would it happen? Is it a trend that will start hitting comedians because now we see that as more of an option? Because Will Smith was willing to take the blame as an example of like this is how you can act. You can act. You can respond to a comedian this way by slapping them. That's an acceptable response. That's what he's arguing for. And so is it possible that it does get that way? Maybe it does. Like being a fighter is better than being a comedian maybe at some point or something. Like, well, you actually have to be able to fight too or whatever. Um but it's just like I think what you find out is that comedians don't care about, yeah, like you can come up and hit them on stage or whatever. But like they're just going to keep talking. Like it's not like the threat of somebody coming up to you on stage is going to stop a comedian. So somebody who actually wants to do that doesn't care about shit like that. So it really doesn't, that action or the possibility of that happening is not enough of a threat to well, deter people who actually want to do comedy. But um 48 minutes. What does it mean to be cool? Is it good to be cool? I wonder this. There's We process more about the word cool than we did recently. Like I wonder if conservatives are cool or if liberals are cool. And also I wanted to talk about Alex Jones for a minute. And that is, I guess, a funny thing. What would you call that? That's just a joke that, oh, now he has to pay $975 million. I'm just gonna hit this ball down here, right down here by the green. Oh, no, I can't because there are trees in the way. I'm just gonna go through the trees and then hit it really hard. Boom. There's trees in the way. Oh, that didn't really work out now, did it? No, this is not gonna help. This is not gonna help my campaign. A ball rolling down the entire face of a mountain is not going to help me do well in this round. Let's go with the 5 wood. No, let's go with the 3 wood. I mean, I should have played it safe. But what can I say? I like to take the risk. Not going to stop me. The thing about Alex Jones is you could not do more to devalue the US dollar than to have publicity stunts like that. You idiots. But the people behind that, the liberals and establishment officials and elites that set up the Alex Jones trial just to make a big example out of him and make him look like an idiot. And that's all that they're concerned with. They don't care about the Sandy Hook families. These Sandy Hook parents should really just pack it in. I don't know why they're so adamant about refreshing everybody in the country on the memory of their dead children. Like, remember when our children died? And how great that is. Like, I don't know why they're so concerned with reinvigorating the tragic events that happened. Like, they want it to... It's almost like... I mean, whatever. I'm just saying that I don't take their side. They already awarded $1.5 million from the estate of the family. By the way, the family of the shooter had to pay $1.5 million. And Alex Jones, just because he made some comments, has to pay $965 million. It's not a fair trial. They just make him pay this enormous amount of money because it's a publicity stunt so the rest of the nation can see that we're not allowed to be an outlier in our thinking. Like, you can't be too much of an individual because we're just going to make you pay a bunch of money. But it's a major devaluation of the currency. Not that the liberals who set up this fake-ass trial care about that, because they would love for the U.S. currency to be devalued. But it's just that if it costs you $965 million just to say things that are ugly, my headset turns off, then what's the point of making a dollar? Like, I could really lose $965 million just because I said a few things that people really don't like, just because I made a number of people upset. That could cost me $965 million. Isn't that the death of free speech? I mean, I feel like that's the example that they're putting forth, is that don't be too free with your speech because will cost you your entire life's work. So, but I'm just mentioning how it's a complete joke that they would say that that's how much they're going to charge him. It's almost like pointless. Like, okay, if you're going to charge somebody that much money, at the end of the day, obviously that's just kind of a joke, because there's no way that the sins he committed are that bad. Just because he said some things that were untrue, or he said that it was a hoax, that these kids were murdered, even though the families already made $73 million off of the gun manufacturer and made $1.5 million from the estate of the mom of the shooter, even though she didn't really get that good an end of the bargain because she got murdered by her son that day also. But yeah, like $1.5 million from the shooter's family, that's plausible. $73 million from the gun manufacturer, you'd think would be enough for these parents to be like, okay, we're good. But no, these parents are insatiable. I mean, I guess it just gives you all the authority in the world. If your kid got murdered, then you're the person that the rest of us have to listen to. It's kind of like a breast cancer survivor a little bit. Don't even get me started on those. I mean, I'm about to be charged $900 million for the ugly things I say. But probably there is some court somewhere that's going to, if you got big enough and started saying breast cancer survivors suck, they'd probably drag you into court and charge you $3 million if you were a famous figure at this point. But that's what they're saying. That's the whole reason they do it, is just to tell you that it doesn't matter how big you get on your own platform. if we don't like the things you say, we're just going to charge you millions of dollars. And but it's just like, that's the law for you. You're always going to make more money following rules. As a point I often bring up, which is a point that maybe only I ever say, is that popularity is kind of based on morality or how many asses that you're going to kiss, rather than that it's like nice guys finish last. I think it's nice guys finish first, really, most of the time, because the people that make it as a broadcaster in the NFL are just a bunch of empty-minded idiots that have nothing to say besides, let's follow the rules. The referees are always right, and at the end of the day, it's better to listen to, because those are the people that kiss the most asses and follow the most rules in order to get in a position high enough that they're on national TV broadcasting an NFL game. You kissed a lot of asses and followed a lot of rules, and so you're just somebody who loves the referees naturally. In most cases, it's more unique to have some major platformer get really famous of your own individual efforts, or as an alternative media, that's so much more difficult to do, because the standardized world is always telling you that you should have followed their rules rather than make your own world with its own rules, which is what Alex Jones did. But costing him $965 million is just an indictment on conservatism and individuality, to say that you can't create your own world because that's always evil, because you're always leading people in the wrong direction. When in reality, it's just the powerful hate. They need to do everything in their power to subjugate the insubordinate, subjugate individuals who try to do things outside of the system. They need to be punished. That's all that this is. It's just an indictment on individuality and being alternative, trying to create independent media. It's just the powerful that are already establishment legacy media has a lot of power, and they'll cost you $960 million because they hate alternative voices. They want the world to continue to be the rules that it already is. It's just familiarity, and I would argue that a lot of the people that make it that way and that say Alex Jones deserves to pay all that for the evil that he incited by saying words, even though he's paying $963 million more than the actual shooter, than the people who created the shooter, the shooter's family. You're actually going to pay $900 million more just if you say a few ugly words about it. And so that's why this country is a farce. It's just ridiculous. That's really what happens. It's just kind of makes a mockery of anybody who's making money, is what I'm saying. It's such a devaluation of the U.S. currency. If you didn't have confirmation before that the U.S. currency was in the toilet, they're charging $965 million in court as if that's a surmountable, as if you can make that back or something. It's really just a slap in the face to anybody who makes money. The dollar just means nothing. If a court can charge you whatever they want at any given time, they can charge you almost $1 billion just for talking. Forget about the fucking U.S. dollar at this point. The U.S. dollar is gone. Doesn't matter now. But if there's this big public stunt about it, that's even worse. Like, what that communicates to the country about what it means to make a dollar is detrimental. Like, and it's just, they act like that they can completely ignore that, or there's no consequences to being ridiculous or something. And who decides this? And then when they published the stories on it, they were like saying that the jury decided the outcome of $965 million. I didn't know that it ever worked that way. The jury doesn't decide the amount, but all of the articles were like, the jury decided that they're going to cost $965 million because the jury is so morally upright, and they know an egregious action when they see it. The jury, common, regular people, they made the decision because it's regular people like you that would come to the conclusion that they need Alex Jones to owe $965 million. It's like any regular person would decide. It's completely rational, this decision that's been handed down. The jury decided it. Like, isn't it a judge that decides the specific punishment? I don't know for sure. But just, that's the whole thing, is they're acting like, obviously he should owe $1 billion, when if you have a rationally operating brain, you would be like, that doesn't make any sense. But it's whatever. I wonder if the liberals are cool or if conservatives are cool. I think that liberals are cool. And then also, follow-up question, is it a good thing to be cool? Like, what is so much the benefit of being cool? There is some benefit, and you do want to be cool. You do want to look cool. And who owns it more? Is it liberals or conservatives? I think that naturally it's liberals, actually, because they're more about appearances. And I would definitely argue that I think at this point the conservatives are progressive and the liberals are conservative. But this, I don't think that that is even that much of an argument, because the liberals elected Biden. You couldn't have been more conservative in your choice than to elect the oldest guy you had around. The person who's had the most years is already a politician, was already a vice president. Like, that's the easiest choice ever. That's so conservative. That's so what you were already doing. That's so... It's just that the... I'll follow up on this point at the beginning of the next episode. The liberals are so tame and so terrified of the unknown. I have no idea how you could call them the progressives when the conservatives are electing Trump. The conservatives are more concerned with just going rogue. But whatever, the stage, the divide between performer and audience, and God. It's just that, like Jesus, we do revere him to be a God, so, and a man. It's really just kind of a whole thing. It's really difficult to overcome the God man. Since he is both of those, you don't get to get away from calling him a man, and since that's the case, he's just doing the things that we're doing, but also doing them way better than any of us for at all times, for all eternity, as long as we revere him. That makes it difficult for the rest of us at all times when we've been convinced that he's a man, so he's like all of the rest of us. It's just kind of a gypsy thing to be the God man, just overall. And so the stage, like, when you make the stage more like, when it's more God, I mean, whatever, we just have a lot of things like that where we're perceiving it that there needs to be something like a God that has power over it. We do that when we can't approach that thing on our own. I think that also works for being a character, is what I'm saying. It works for being a character and being an actor, but, like, we don't even get to see ourselves as characters. Like, this emerging trend where we say that, oh, there's kinds of people that are like a lead actor or lead a role in a movie, but in real life. We're finally starting to say that we are the characters. And we distance ourselves from it by the idea of the character actor, too, describing... when it's like every person is already a character actor at all times, they're totally selling out to be their own individual character, and it's not that you'd have to be a character actor, be identifiable. You could be more ambiguous in the way you present yourself, but I'm saying that being a character at this time is something we make out to be too more godlike than we should. We should understand it to be a more human, innate thing that we already have. We already are. Like, we don't have to find it difficult to carry out the actions that make us who we are, is kind of what I'm saying. Maybe we distance ourselves from that too much by saying that the characters are people on stages and on screens. But just like character is an interesting specific word for whatever it is that I'm describing. But thanks for listening. That's the end of the episode. Subscribe to all of my channels. Do it right now. Talk to you all later. Bye.